Good day, everyone. We are the Group 8, and today we're going to discuss terrestrial forest. First, let us focus on the description or the definition of a forest. So, according to this meaning, ang forest daw ay isang complex ecosystem that is mainly composed of trees that supports earth and life forms. Ibig sabihin, there is a wide variation of species na makikita dito. So another description is what we said earlier. It describes an area that has a large number of trees, and according to National Geographic Society, it has three general types, namely temperate, tropical, and boreal. So let us focus first on the boreal forest. Ang boreal forest is also known as taiga, and it is actually the world's largest land biome. So about 30% of the land sa Earth ay composed of the boreal forest. Now, where can we find this boreal forest? These are found in the top four countries with the largest land area, which are Canada, China, Russia, and the United States. It can also be found in other nearby countries with them, such as Japan, Norway, Finland, and Sweden. So, ang sabi dito, seasons are divided into short, moist, and moderately warm summers and long, cold, and dry winters. Mas mahaba yung cold weather dito than the warm ones. So, trees in boreal forests grow in high latitude environments, meaning they are mostly found in countries na malalamig wherein yung freezing temperature nila ay naglalast for about 6 to 8 months. So this is a sample of a graph of the annual average temperature and precipitation in a boreal forest. As we can see, ang summer nila is around 15 degrees Celsius and ayun yung pinaka-high temp nila. Per example lang to. Pero pwede pa rin naman siya umabot ng 21 degrees Celsius sa summer. And on the other hand, ang average temperature sa isang boreal forest is around -5 degrees to 5 degrees Celsius. So, bihira umulan sa isang boreal forest and ang precipitation doon is umaabot ng 40 to 50 centimeters per year. So, this is a visualization of the circumboreal belt. From the word itself, it looks like a belt. And ayan yung visualization ng boreal forest around the world. So, yung mga blue, highlighted blue areas, ayan yung mga managed forests. On the other hand, yung green ones naman, ayan yung mga unmanaged or mga hindi gaano napapansin pa. Moving on to the species present on this biome, ipapakita natin both animal and plant species. So first we have here the animals. Most of the species here are big mammals and some of them are predators. Karamihan dito like the moose, yung caribou, or minsan yung mga deer. Actually gumagala sila around everywhere kahit nasa city part na sila ng lugar. So if ever naman na mag-visit kayo sa ganitong area, be mindful be mindful of your surroundings and make sure not to trigger them. So ayan, meron tayong American black bear, caribou, red fox, moose, wolverine, wood bison, beaver, and deer. Next is for the plants. So sa plants naman, we have the pines and spruce. Ayan yung pinaka dominant species or dominant trees sa isang boreal forest. And as for the others, we have the aspen tree, pine cherry, hazel, maple, ferns, and lichens. So one of the great example of a boreal forest is the East Siberian taiga, which can be found in eastern Russia. So next one is a temperate forest. Ang temperate forest naman, they are located in the mid-latitude area which are found between the polar region and tropic region. So, ang meron temperate forest ay yung Canada, some regions in China, pati na rin yung Finland, France, Germany, Japan, Sweden, and United States. They have this kind of biome. So this one is a visualization or visual representation of all the temperate forests present around the world. Next one naman is a graph that represents the annual temperature sa Japan. Okay, so as we can see from the graph, umaabot ng 27 degrees Celsius during the summer, and pagdating naman ng December, bumababa yung kanilang temperature up to 6 degrees. And on January, bumababa ng 5 degrees Celsius. But in the average temperature, pupunta siya ng 5 degrees Celsius to 25 degrees Celsius. On the other hand, ang precipitation sa kanya is around 750 millimeters to 1,500 millimeters. So, ang temperate forests, they actually have four seasons, namely winter, spring, summer, and fall. So, kung makikita nyo sa movies or shows, nag-change yung color ng trees. During fall, and from the word itself, fall, nahuhulog or naglalagas yung leaves sa trees. Ito yung way ng adaptation ng mga puno in preparation for winter. So, during fall, dormant stage yung trees, and if you also notice, thick yung bark nila, and again, pagpaprotect din nila dito sa sarili na from the cold weather. So, nag-grow back yung mga bunga nila, yung mga flowers nila during the summer and the spring, and the cycle goes on lang. Now, let's move on sa mga plant and animal species commonly found in the temperate forest. Unahin natin dito yung squirrels. So, sa squirrels, nag-a-adapt sila sa environment nila pag malamig by rotating their hind feet, which allows them na itago yung sarili nila sa sap with their heads first. And this is their way of hiding sa mga predators. Sa chipmunks naman, as you can see, yung cheeks nila medyo parang lumulobo. So, nag extend yung cheeks nila 3 times as its original size. Ang ginagawa nila, naglo-load sila ng food dyan para pagdating ng winter, may pagkain pa rin sila. Tapos naman, here we have the bobcat, the timber wolf, grizzly bear, and the raccoon. These are the common predators that we can see on the temperate forest. On the other hand, yung monarch butterfly and yung robin, sila naman yung mga migratory species in which nagmamigrate sila ng place or they go to a different location pagdating ng winter para maiwasan nila yung taglamig. Next is the plant species or the trees. So, yung ash tree tsaka yung oak tree, sila yung mga trees na nag-grow during the cold season. And on the other hand, yung pine cone tsaka fir tree, isa ulit sila sa mga dominant species that we can find in there. And ang tawag natin dito is mga conifer dahil kaya pa rin nila maging color green or color green pa rin sila kahit ano na, taglamig na. And the other species or the other plants that we can see around pagdating ng spring is a magnolia tree, wildflower, and chestnut pati yung acer tree. So this is the Tongass National Forest, one of the famous temperate forests found in southeastern Alaska in the US. So moving on sa tropical forest, or tropical rainforest. This is found closer to the equator, which is warm. So makikita natin siya sa Southeast Asia and part na yung Philippines dito, Sub-Saharan Africa and Central America. So, yung biome na to, madalas umuulan dito, and it is known for its dense canopy ng trees, and also it has different layers. It has four main characteristics. So first, it has very high annual rainfall. Tulad na sinabi ko kanina, madalas umulan sa ganitong biome. Next is high average temperature. So our country has this type of biome, which is tropical rainforest, and we can all attest that it does have a high temperature as we experience now. Nutrient poor soil. So, dahil nga madalas na umulan sa tropical rainforest, nawawash away yung nutrients sa soil. If you'll notice, yung ibang soil sa tropical rainforest color red na, and the reason for that is rich in iron kasi siya. Next is high levels of biodiversity or species richness. Tropical rainforest is a home to the largest number of plants and animal species. So kaya tinawag siyang species richness. Next, we have here the graph or graphical representation sa temperature sa Brazil, tropical rainforest in Brazil. As we can see, stagnant lang yung kanyang temperature. Hindi siya gano'n nagmo-move compared to boreal and temperate forest. Nagre-range lang siya ng 27 degrees Celsius and makikita din natin na madalas din umuulan dito. Pero generally, ang average temperature sa isang tropical forest is 21 degrees Celsius to 30 degrees Celsius and the kanyang precipitation is around 152 to 406 centimeters in an hour. So, nagdedepende naman to sa kung saang lugar ka. Now, this one is a visual representation sa map ng mga present na tropical forests around the world. They only cover about 6% of the area on the Earth's surface. So, mostly sa South America at saka sa Brazil makikita yung forest na yan, yung mga tropical forest. But we can also see our country here, which is the Philippines. Next, we'll focus on the different tropical rainforests present in our country and the species that is present in there. So, according kay Dr. Eric Wickramanyake, he is a Sri Lankan ecologist and conservation biologist. Sabi niya na may 9 ecoregions daw sa Philippines which are present as a tropical rainforest in the country. So we have here the Luzon rainforest, Luzon tropical pine forest, Luzon montane rainforest, Mindoro rainforest, Mindanao eastern Visayas rainforest, Palawan rainforest, Greater Negros Panay rainforest, Mindanao montane rainforest, Sulu Archipelago rainforest. So, unahin natin yung Luzon rainforest. So, ang Luzon rainforest, it covers about 1,000 meters of the Luzon Island. And may mga kasama ding mga volcanic mountains dito such as Makiling, Banasao, Isarog, Mayon, and Bulusan. And makikita nyo rin dito na yung rat species dito, it was named after Isarog kasi nga yung Luzon rainforest, it covers the Isarog area. So, ang pinaka-dominant vegetation dito is the Dipterocarpus family or Dipterocarpus tree family. We can see there the Dipterocarpus cardorensis, gracilis, and Nasalti. Pero meron din tayong makikitang 5 parasitic species ng Rafflesia. On the other hand, sabi nga dito, most of the mammals in here are small. Yung mga daga-daga lang, like the Isarog shrew rat and Isarog striped shrew rat. Sa mga big mammals naman, we have the Philippine brown deer and the Philippine warty pig. Yung Philippine warty pig, alam ko rare na lang siya or bihira na lang siya makita dito. Next will be the Luzon tropical pine forest. So, unlike sa Luzon rainforest na ang kanilang vegetation or dominant vegetation is the Dipterocarpus family, dito naman is the Acacia pine or also known as the Benguet pine. As you can see, yung leaves niya parang patusok-tusok lang. And we can also find here yung mga long-tailed macaque, tsaka Luzon bleeding heart dove. Just like the Luzon rainforest, ang kanilang dominant big mammals are the Philippine brown deer and Philippine warty pig. Next is the Luzon montane forest. Ang size naman nito is about 832 hectares and comprising of the forest above 1,000 meters in elevation along Sierra Madre mountain range, which is the longest mountain in the Philippines. And kasama din dito yung mga Zambales Mountains sa west. So, yung mga puno dito, it is actually shorter than massive and heavily buttressed trees sila sa lowlands. Dominated sila ng species ng Lauraceae family, Fagaceae, and Arlariaceae, and many more. So, ito yung mga example na plants, the Cricarpus, Stupi, and Ducha pukra. Tapos yung mga animals naman dito, commonly maliliit lang din such as the cloud rat, parang mataba lang siya na daga, and the earthworm mice. Yung earthworm mice, kumakain sila ng earthworm. Next is the Mindoro Rainforest. Ang size naman ng Mindoro Rainforest is about 1,014 hectares, and just like Luzon Forest, dominant dito ang Dipterocarpus family. As for the animals naman, makikita dito natin dito yung mga flagship endemic species such as the Mindoro dwarf buffalo, Mindoro bleeding heart, Philippine freshwater crocodile, and Mindoro hornbill. Next will be the Mindanao Eastern Visayas Rainforest. So, ang size ng Mindanao Eastern Visayas Forest is about 10,534 hectares. So, ito yung pinakamalaki kasi nagko-comprise siya ng dalawang dalawang areas ng Philippines. So, it covers a lowland forest below 1,000 meters in elevation on the Philippine islands of Mindanao, Samar, Leyte, Bohol, and several smaller satellite islands. So, dominated sila ng mga casuarina trees at saka Barringtonia trees. On the other hand, ang mga species na makikita natin dito ay tertiary at saka Philippine kakatu. Tapos makikita din natin yung tulad ng nakita natin kanina sa Luzon Rainforest is the Philippine brown deer and Philippine warty pig. Next will be the Palawan Rainforest. So, 1,473 hectares ang size ng Palawan Rainforest, and kino-cover niya yung buong peripheral islands ng Palawan. And just like others, covered or dominated siya ng Dipterocarpus family. And may mga endemic pitcher plant din na tayo na makikita dito. Itong Nepenthes philippinensis. Ayan, puno-puno actually ang Palawan Rainforest ng pitcher plant. Meron din tayong mga endemic animals such as the Palawan pangolin, Palawan flying fox, Palawan threshu, and Palawan stink badger. Next will be the Greater Negros Panay Rainforest. So, tulad doon sa Mindanao Eastern Visayas Rainforest, dominated din to ng ka casuarina trees and Barringtonia trees. So, ang mga present na animals dito ay Visayan Turkic hornbill, Visayan spotted deer, Visayan leopard cat, at saka Cebu flower pecker. Next will be the Mindanao Montane Rainforest. So, dalawa yung dominant species dito na trees, which is Shores, Polypsperma, and Almasiga philippinensis. Maliliit lang din yung mga pwede nating makitang species dito, such as the Mindanao moonrat, and the black and cinnamon fantail. Last one will be the Sulu Archipelago. So, sa Sulu Archipelago Rainforest, dito, ang comprise niya na area is the Tawi-Tawi, Borneo, Sulu, and Holo. So, mostly, makikita natin dito yung mga mangrove such as the Rhizophora family and yung mga Barringtonia trees din. So, ang mga makikita naman natin na species will be the Sundus loris, Sulu bleeding heart, Tawi-Tawi brown dove, and Sulu bubok. Now, for our next part, may I call on Miss Nicolle Khate King for the forest structure.
So for forest structure, merong two types ng distribution, which is the vertical and horizontal spaces. And their distribution is the one that shapes the biodiversity and the ecosystem of the forest. Also, in the forest structure, doon natin madedetermine yung mga key aspect ng past, present, or even the future condition ng forest. It contains different characteristics such as the type, size, shape, and distribution of the forest components in horizontal and vertical spaces. And mahalagang maintindihan natin yung structure ng isang forest sapagkat makakatulong din ito para maintindihan yung ecology ng forest and how the trees in the forest manage themselves. So next slide. So for the first type, we have the vertical space. We have the emergent layer, the canopy layer, the understory layer, the forest floor, and the root layer. Next slide. So we have the idea that yung sa forest structure, since nahapyawan na sila sa atin nung midterm, pero ngayon for further discussion and elaboration na lang. So first, we have the emergent layer or yung pinakamataas na tree sa isang forest. Usually, sila yung maraming nare-receive na light from the sun and also they receive most of the rain. And they also receive the strongest winds since sila yung may pinakamataas, reaching a height of 70 meters tall or 230 feet tall. Usually sila yung mga na-coasting tree na makikita sa malayo kasi mataas yung height nila. And most birds like eagle and macaws live there. Meron din mga monkey na kayang umakyat sa ganong kataas na tree. So next slide. Secondly, we have the canopy layer. Sila naman yung mga nagpo-provide ng shade sa forest. So and they also promote a unique microclimate that support various plant and animal life. Sila naman yung sumunod sa emergent layer that also protects against strong winds, heavy rainfall, and direct sunlight, which result a damp, calm, and dim environment beneath. So, madami na ding animal life ang tumitira sa layer na ito katulad ng two-toed sloth and various species of birds. So, next slide, please. So, there is two types of canopy, the closed and the open canopy. Pag sinabi natin closed canopy, ito yung continuous layer ng leaves kung saan most of the sunlight ay naharangan nila. So, yung forest floor ay mas nagiging dim. While yung open canopy naman is dispersed yung tree, kumbaga yung end-to-end na leaves ay magkakahiwalay or medyo malalayo yung gap nila. Kung saan mas makakapasok yung sunlight that can support the vegetation area and they are warmer environment kasi nga meron silang direct sunlight kahit papaano. So next slide. So for understory layer, which is located below the canopy layer, sila naman yung maliliit na trees and hindi na din ganoon kadami yung light na nare-receive nila. Sila din yung tumutulong para ma-prevent yung wind and erosion and they also act as a protective zone between the forest floor and the canopy layer. This layer also the habitat of various animals and plant species. Most animal na hindi na ganun kataas yung kayang maakyat nila sa tree ay dyan sila mostly nakatira. So next slide, please. So next, we have the forest floor. Ito naman yung pinaka-lowest layer ng rainforest kung saan dito na makikita yung ground and most of the vegetation. And also, lahat ng uri ng forest animals ay mostly sa layer na ito nakatira or makikita. And the vegetation that usually lives here ay nagbibigay ng nutrients sa soil at nagsusupport sa mga nadidecompose na nadadagdag sa nutrient cycle ng forest. Bukod dito, yung forest floor, they give essential part for the different organism and it's important for the forest ecology. Next slide. So lastly, for vertical spaces, ito yung root layer. So ang root layer, they serves as the tree anchors and absorb water and nutrients from the soil. Kaya't mahalaga ang layer na ito kasi yung health ng ecosystem ay sa kanila mostly nakabase. And it gives indication para sa lahat ng mga plants and animals na ang pag-grow and their safety ay nakabase sa forest as their safe haven. So next we have the second type, yung horizontal space. We have the spatial patterns, gaps and clearings, and species richness. First, we have the spatial patterns. Kapag sinabi natin spatial patterns, ito yung arrangement or yung pagkakasunod-sunod ng distribution ng mga tree species. Also, factors such as resources competitions or disturbance in the forest can be quickly determined by the spatial patterns. Next slide. Next pa. So, in gaps and clearings, this is where trees are cut out, which creates openings in the forest canopy. Itong mga gap na to, they are made by the natural catastrophe such as storm or forest fire. Or even human activities kagaya ng mga illegal logging or yung clearing sa forest. These gaps and clearings give new possibilities for vegetation to grow, and also kapag may clearings, may light na from the sun that can also attract species and form a new life. Next slide. So when we say species richness, from the word itself, it measures the number of species that is present within the forest. Yung species richness, isa siya sa nag-i-indicate sa level ng biodiversity ng isang forest kung saan kapag mataas ang numbers ng species, the greater the diversity of life form. And nag-influence din siya ng various factors katulad ng habitat heterogeneity or the diverse habitats provides niches for a broader range of species to thrive. Next is the nutrient availability or yung availability of essential nutrients influences the diversity of plant species, which in turn affects the diversity of animal species dependent on the plants. And next, and the disturbance pattern or the natural or human caused disturbance such as yun nga yung wildfire or yung illegal logging, it can affect the species richness. At kapag naman may mataas na species richness ang isang forest, it will considered as a healthy forest, at kapag naman mababa ang species richness, they call it a biodiversity loss. So, for the next reporter, may I call to Mr. Joseph Riveros.
Okay, then proceed tayo sa sa functions ng isang tropical specifically muna sa rainforest muna tayo. Dito sa trophic level, as you can see, the animals present in a rainforest may vary. In this case kasi random random lang muna ang ginawa kong mga species involved dito. Although naman yung mga rainforest, yung mga iba't ibang organisms na rainforest ay hindi kakalayo sa setup na ginawa ko dito. But anyway, so yun nga, this is a Philippine setup, and a rainforest is a major source of plants and trees that makes them habitable and ready for consumption for primary consumers. In that case, kung mapapansin nyo, between tertiary and then itong secondary and primary consumers, mas malaki yung portion ng mas malaki yung population ng primary and secondary consumer. This is the specific yung at least yung ganitong setup sa isang tropical rainforest, kasi kung mapapansin nyo in other countries and other types of rainforest, may iba't ibang mga tertiary consumers, mga apex predator. And dito sa rainforest ay may lang tayo at least parang bilang lang ng mga apex predators. And as you can see dito sa food web, dalawa lang yung natin, yung mga apex predator, which is the Philippine eagle and the lizards. Itong lizard na to ay actually itong dalawang lizard na to ay from different vicinities. Itong monitor lizard at ito ay yung sailfin lizard. And next is proceed tayo sa biogeochemical cycles. Now, clarification, as was stated before by Ma'am Tatia, na lahat actually lahat ng mga biogeochemical cycles still occur in mga different ecosystems, but we're just simply going to enumerate which cycles are abundant in that environment and see how it plays its part in the process. Now, first, let's discuss the carbon cycle. The most abundant cycle that occurs in rainforests is this one, known for its great biodiversity, and this richness of organisms may possibly contribute a large portion in depositing carbon, maging ano man yan, aerial or on land. Itong the following statements, ito yung mga major processes that facilitates the carbon cycle. First is the storage of carbon. In a way na nagko-contribute to sa carbon cycle by the absorption of carbon in the atmosphere via mga plants. Sila kasi yung mga special characters that take part in this process by inhaling vast amount of carbon dioxide in the air and converting them for photosynthetic mechanisms. Next process is the pagsasamahin natin actually yung deposits of itong dalawang chemical process, deposits of carbon and the decomposition, because these two are related with each other somehow. And why nga ba? Kasi in a way na decomposition being the start of the process, and as it decays, not only it spreads carbon dioxide in the air but in the soil as well, making the substrate carbon rich with its leftovers. And over time itong mga carbon na na-store sa substrate or sa lupa, nagagamit din ito ng mga biotic factors and mga things such as industrial practices. So at least itong dalawang chemical process ay medyo magkadikit yung process nila between dito sa carbon cycle. And lastly, sa carbon cycle, which is yung organisms adding carbon dioxide, in a way na syempre since dahil yung biodiversity ng rainforest ay rich, yung mga organisms as well, syempre yung dahil madami din yung nako-contribute nilang carbon dioxide sa atmosphere mismo. And as we all know, atmosphere is yun na mismo pinaka, according sa lesson ni ma'am noon, na yun yung may malaking storage actually ng carbon dioxide. Now, proceed tayo sa next biogeochemical cycles na abundant, which is yung water, or some may know it as hydrogen cycle. Now, the occurrence of rainfall in a rainforest is high, pero this does not go to waste. Like the carbon cycle, it is being recycled through these chemical processes. First is transpiration. Dito nangyayari yung sinasabi natin paghinga or exhalation actually ng mga exhalation ng plants, by which they produce water vapor from their stomata, thus recycling the excess water. Next is evaporation. Among ng mga process nitong tatlo sa compared dito sa dalawang process, evaporation actually occurs often more than these two processes, because since dahil yung rain, mataas yung annual precipitation actually sa isang rainforest, dito dahil yung mga madaming syempre mga excess water, and then di naman actually, kung di man maubos lahat, still yung mga remaining leftovers actually, yun yung mga waters na actually nag-evaporate. Then next is storage of excess water. Now, so as not as often as it can be, depending on the heaviness of the rain, kasi due to climate change, excess water can also be stored underground, by which they become magiging tawag na siya as groundwater. Dahil kasi groundwater in a sense na they flow beneath the substrate. And next is nutrient cycle tayo. Ito ng last biochemical cycle ng rainforest. Now, this cycle may also pertain to the nabanggit ko ng carbon cycle, since it involves the use of nutrients that came from decomposition and other forms. This cycle involves the exchange of nutrients between biotic and abiotic factors. The reason behind of this is the richness of biodiversity. Well, where most of the nutrients actually na ay nagagamit pa din, and such as carbon and other elements being produced from different manners. And then yung mga living organisms naman, they absorb this stored energy, and kapag 'di ba nagamit nila yung energy, syempre over time mamatay din naman tong mga organisms, mamatay itong mga organisms, yung mga organisms, kapag namatay sila, ayun, yung mga energy na nagamit nila, syempre mababalik din nila actually sa substrate or soil, through decomposition, and then so on and so forth. Maulit lang ulit yung exchange ng mga elements between these two, between biotic and abiotic factors. Then the next function naman tayo ay sa temperate forest, which will be presented by Mr. Pariolo.
Tatakal ko naman ay yung functions that are dominated in temperate forests. Ang tatakal ko lang is 2 in biogeochemical cycle, 2 abiotic factor, and yung trophic level. Next. Sa biogeochemical cycle, ang tatakal ko is yung nitrogen cycle and yung phosphorus cycle. Sa nitrogen cycle ay merong 5 steps: nitrogen fixation, nitrification, assimilation, ammonification, and denitrification. Sa nitrogen fixation, nitrogen falls to the earth via precipitation, such as rain or snow. It's carried out by leguminous plants such as groundnuts and even bacteria like Azobacter, nostoc, and Anabina. Nitrification, nitrifying bacteria converts ammonia into nitrites, nitrites convert to nitrate. Assimilation, absorbing nitrites and ammonia into organic nitrogen na iko-consume ng other organism. Assimilation is ammonification is converting organic nitrogen into ammonia when animal or plants die, is also known as mineralization, that can be carried out by some saprophytes like fungi and bacteria. Denitrification, nitrite converted into molecular nitrogen through nitric oxide to turn it back to atmosphere. Next is uh, next slide. Next is phosphorus cycle, contains 4 steps: weathering, absorption, decomposition, and sediments. Phosphorus can be found in purest form. Only phosphates that can be found in sedimentary rocks. When weathering happens, with help of raining, it will pour down to soil and running water. Phosphate compound will now be absorbed by soil and consumed by animals. When the animals and plants decompose, phosphate may be taken up by detritivores or returned to the soil. Sa running water naman, same din ng process where it will taken by aquatic organisms like phytoplankton, and when decomposed or waste of organism, it will sink to form new sedimentary layers and form process. The compound from the ocean will wash back to surface to perform a cycle. Next, yung 2 abiotic factors, temperature and light. Next slide. Temperature, kaya siya because temperate forest has four seasons. Trees and other living organisms need to adapt for in spring and summer where plants and trees starts to bloom. Falls or autumn where leaves turn yellow and fall to prepare for winter where organisms starts to sleep or hibernate. Next, sa light naman, even though sa picture na sinelect ko ay selected forest, light still strong correlation for understory plant pool and mediate a strong solid factor for overall species richness. Next is yung trophic level. Producers sa temperate forest includes canopy conifers like hemlock, spruce, and as well understory like mosses, ferns, and shrubs. Next is for first order consumers, range from chipmunks, squirrels, mice, insects, and herbivore organisms. Second consumers contains birds of prey, raccoon, weasel, and amphibians. And lastly, the tertiary consumers where wolves, bears, and cougars located, then decomposition. Next reporter is si Mr. GIPIT.
So, ang itatakil ko naman ngayon is ang value ng tropical forest. So, first value is life support. Tropical rainforests are extremely important because they serve as life support system for around the world and source of commodities and services for those who live there. So, kaya siya nasabi na life support kasi main source ang tropical rainforest ng oxygen. And tapos naman, hindi lang oxygen ang pinoprovide nila, like nagpo-provide din sila ng water, medicine, foods, shelter sa mga nakatira doon. So next slide please. Climate regulation. Tropical forests are also important for strong carbon regulating the global climate change. So sa climate regulation naman, like yung tropical rainforest ay ang ating natural defense against sa climate change dahil sa kakayahan nitong maka-absorb ng greenhouse gases sa atmosphere. Next slide please. Erosion and flooding. During heavy downpours, the mass vegetation in the rainforest catches and hold much of the rain, then disposes of it through evaporation and transpiration. It acts like a big umbrella, breaking the force of the rain and protecting the ground surface. So, nakakatulong din yung tropical rainforest sa pag-iwas sa erosion and flooding because dahil sa mga puno na rin doon kasi yung puno ay parang nag-act as natural protection sa tropical rainforest. So, kapag madaming puno, ibig sabihin, mas ma-prevent ang erosion and flooding. So, next reporter na po is Miss Caparida. Thank you.
So, for our human impact, this past century, humans have fragmented wildlands and altered the demographic structure of forests. And humans also converted forests to agricultural and urban uses. For our first factor of human impact is the deforestation. In 20th century, there were approximately 31 million square miles of forest around the world. Today, that number has shrunk to less than 25 billion square miles. And araw-araw, Philippines loses almost 52,000 trees and 47,000 hectares of forest are being destroyed every year by logging, slash and burning, and land conversion. Next slide. The second factor of human impact is mining. Mining and logging have both contributed to the Philippine loss of forest cover, which has increased from 17 million hectares in 1934 to barely 3 million in 2003, a drop of 82%. So, these past years or decades, mas naging sensitive ang mga tao sa pagninina or pagsira ng mga bundok dahil nakikita nila yung mga effect nito sa sa atin din na mga tao tulad ng erosion and pagbaha. 60% of country's surface area was covered in forest about 70 years ago. Today, that percentage is less than 10%. Next slide. And last is forest fires. Common causes of man-made forest fires are kaingin or slash and burn farming, burning of honeycombs to collect honey, smoking of cigarette butts, and other fire-related activities. Noong 2019 is 1,282 outbreaks ang nakaapekto sa 24,091 hectares of forest. And yung damage is nag-cost siya ng 417.9 million pesos. Next. Okay. So, for our conclusion, the documentation of human impact in our forest is getting worse every year. And we should be concerned about this because one third of planet's oxygen is coming from forests. Losing our forests will have greatly bad effects in human and animals. That's the end of our reporting of GIPIT. Thank you for listening.